welcome to our closing ceremonies. Kevin apparently did not get the memo, which said that he is going to be performing with streamers and dancing. So we'll wait for that later, but it is my pleasure to welcome you to this last session of the conference, where we really are just going to reflect on all of the amazing work that's been happening over the course of 3 days. And wow, what a great way to end the conference by hearing from the students. And we're so grateful to have had your perspectives here front and center, and look forward to incorporating many more student perspectives in the future. And we always are looking for students to work with us on our various projects. So we hope you'll stay connected with us. So this is not just my presentation. This has been prepared by our whole amazing conference program team. And we have a list of that team, I believe, on the next slide. The amazing Kevin Kelly, of course, from San Francisco State University, and Christina Hepner, who's joining us from New Zealand, Helen Chen from Stanford University, Candace Reynolds from Portland State, Amy Cicchino from Auburn University, Lisa Donaldson from Dublin City University, Jordy Getman-Arasso from Bronx Community College, and I play just a supporting role, and I'm at St. George's University in Grenada, although not there yet. So just a quick reminder for you all about some of the initiatives that we have going on at Able. We are the professional association for ePortfolio practitioners, researchers, and students. So we definitely look for ways to really make this community yours. And some of the things that we do are things like the field guide to ePortfolio, which we produced several years ago and are hopefully going into a revision in the near future. We have our Able ePortfolio review, which is a place where people can share their stories. It'd be a great opportunity for student work. So definitely think about that as a venue for publication. And really what we want to do is make learning visible. And we're always open to hearing your ideas for how we can do that more effectively. And wow, did we get a lot of great ideas over the course of the last 3 days, which we'll reflect on as we move through our notes about the various sessions. So first, a little debrief of our hackathon/create-a-thons that happened over the last 3 days. And the first is from Jordy, who is not able to be with us at the moment because he is probably fast asleep in Spain. But we started the conference really thinking about our digital online presence, and you can read here some of the reflections that Jordy provided. One of the things that came up was our frustration. I think we heard a little bit of this from the students as well, like, well, we have to keep this thing up to date and it takes time and energy. And so really thinking about how we can build that time and space into our own practices, I think is something that we all took away from that session, as well as, how do we curate all the various things that shape our identity that exist all out in the world in various places. And so we came up with a variety of well thought out hacks that could be used to help us in this effort. And it's all in the recording. So if you go to the conference portal, you'll be able to access the recording and the materials from that session. Day 2, our digital ethics team, please go ahead and share.
All right, so representative for the team are Amy and I. And so we had a wonderful session with a good number of the people from the task force, as well as participants who had already known a little bit about the digital ethics principles, and those that were new to them. So we had a review of the principles, which you can find online. And therefore, worked in breakout rooms, and Amy is going to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we got such wonderful feedback from all of our participants in breakout rooms. That included helping us kind of clarify the document, but also suggesting new scenarios, exciting resources that have come out, especially during pandemic instruction. And so it's made us all very excited for year 3 of the task force, which we hope that some of you will consider joining us for. It is open to everyone. We want to get diverse perspectives. So looking at you, some of the student members on the panel, we would love to include you. And the bit.ly for that is on the slide that you see.
Okay, so we'll turn it over to our leaders for the hackathon on the field guide to ePortfolio. Christina, is that you again, or is Terry going to share?
I think I'll make the start, and if Terry wants to say a few more words, then that would be fantastic. So we had another hackathon, Create-a-thon, and that was on the field guide to ePortfolios that was kind of as publication date 2017. And we wanted to look at, well, what can the future look like of the field guide, second edition, completely different edition, and also in regards of really also the field of ePortfolio in about 10 years. And so we had great engagement with all the participants in the mirror board that we created, looking back at what practice had looked like last year, in particular, what changes have been made, and then do a visioning activity thinking forward. So where do we want to be in 10 years? And so we just have a big call to action for people. If anybody is interested in thinking more about that, looking at the field guide and what can come out of it, is that open educational resources, is that promoting it more so that it gets more cited? What can we do in order to also further the field of ePortfolio? Then please do email us at the email given here on screen, fg.able@gmail.com.
And I'll just jump in. We didn't plan this, Christina and I, but it has been such a learning opportunity for the work on enhancing the field guide, because field guides are supposed to be things that continue to evolve. And I have a grandson who is into dinosaurs. And one of the things that I've discovered is that this is the dawning of the age of dinosaurs now, because what is happening is they are actually able to find the fossils, the evidence, the record of dinosaurs that they were never able to uncover before. And so many things that they thought are not true, so many things that they are discovering are adding incredible dimensions to concepts and thoughts that we thought were reality, were true, but aren't. And so I think we're kind of in the same place with ePortfolios. We're at the dawn of ePortfolio now, because it has become a global exercise in a way that it never was before because of the pandemic. We've discovered all kinds of dimensions and things that we never would have before. We have actually been able to see into our lives of students and ourselves and our colleagues in ways we haven't before. And one of the things that was not absent, but clearly not there as much as it needed to be in our first effort at the field guide, are the voices of students and their collaboration in defining and looking and exploring what portfolios are and can be. And indeed, they are the future. So having their voices now is really going to start to embody what we're after in terms of making this into a more living document. And my voice is coming from, at the moment, from AAC&U, the Association for American Colleges and Universities. And with our partnership with ABLE, is indeed to make this to a much more visible, as well as an organizational and systemic player in how to change those structures that have indeed been based on a model that needs to be transformed, not only from practical, purposeful things, but also from an equity and a diversity standpoint. And so there's no better way than to have organizations like this get engaged with how to make it an open educational resource that is vital and living and sustainable, and how to take systems and transform them. And so we're really, really excited on day 3 through our Create-a-thon. And thanks to Christina and Kate Coleman for leading that, and all the folks that were there. Please do communicate with us at that FGAble Gmail account to keep the advice coming and the contributions, because we're going to reach out to all of you, because this is a crowdsourced effort. I'm quiet now.
Thanks, Jerry and Christina, and to Kate, of course, who helped to lead that session as well. So now we're on to our conversation sessions and just a few of the highlights. And these are reflections from the various moderators that helped to get those sessions rolling and keep them rolling as they move through the conference. Amy, over to you.
Yeah, I had such a blast with this group. We talked about building e-portfolios for faculty and staff. We moved quick. We spent a little time thinking about our personal brand, a little time identifying and translating artifacts into the e-portfolio, a little time talking about organization and design, and a little time dealing with those technical details. One thing that I really took away from our discussions was how hard it is for us to find the time to do this work, but how important it is to our professional development to slow down and reflect and really integrate our professional and personal identities in this way, and to forward the practice that we so often ask our students to engage in. And so, yeah, I had a blast. Everyone that attended just did such a wonderful job. You made my job as facilitator that much easier.
And I had the pleasure of hosting a pedagogy lab, which is something that we've been thinking we needed to do at ABLE for quite some time. And this was our first opportunity to do so. So we really wanted to invite participants to share their ideas for ePortfolio activities, whether they were already using some activities that they wanted some feedback or had ideas for activities. And so I really loved this session because it was an authentic opportunity for us to kind of, work on these activities and create them in the moment. And so we had a shared Google slide deck where we were all collaborating at the time. And it was also a way for us to give feedback and guidance to one another. We really loved the feedback from everybody. They thought this was a really helpful session. One thing that we really noted, though, was that we need a repository of these activities. And so that actually became a theme and a thread that wove through several other sessions at the conference. And we note that we really want to be integrative in connecting the learning activities to our thinking about digital ethics and our thinking about research. And so you're going to hear a little bit more later on about some of the ideas that we have for moving that work forward. But please know, we want you to join with us to help continue to build this repository of activities and to make sure that you have what you need to do your work effectively with ePortfolios. So more on that to come. I also had the pleasure of hosting our first ever Reflect and Restore session. And the idea for this session came, I'm a yoga teacher in another life, and that's part of my life. And the whole past year has been pretty stressful, I think, for most of us. And it seemed to me that we could really leverage the ePortfolio practices that we all engage in our classes and with our students in the service of our own well-being. And so I tried this out a little bit on my campus this spring, and this was my first attempt to bring it to the ABLE community. We did have a chance to pause and breathe and really use storytelling and reflection to think about our own experience and how we could really create space for our own well-being amidst all the many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. So I really want to thank those of you who came and tested it out and joined me for that session. And these are just some of the resources that I shared with the participants, and you can access the slides and the recording later at a later date if you like. We also had some great unconference sessions. And so Lisa Donaldson, who I'm hoping is fast asleep in Dublin at the moment, did take us through the process of running an unconference, which I think is a really powerful practice that all of us might want to use in some format with either faculty colleagues or even with our students. And so she stepped us through the process of how we could do that effectively. And this really tied into that earlier note that I made about needing a learning activities repository. What came up was, we should have an unconference where we actually build that resource and spend some time working with one another and making those connections. So please watch for an event that we hope will be hosted sometime this fall, where we'll actually have an opportunity to spend some working time using the unconference format to start collaboratively building some of these resources and connecting up the work that's happening with the Digital Ethics Task Force, with our folks who are interested in doing research, and with those of you who really want that activity repository. Again, another link here. Helen and I got the chance to talk with people about their ePortfolio research. And so again, lots of interest in folks collaborating with one another on different research projects. And we know that it's often difficult to find the time and space on our campuses when we're maybe the lone person who's kind of managing the portfolio project, or the one who's responsible for collecting the data and showing evidence of impact. So we talked about using the Slack channel, which we do have available at #ePortResearch. So we really encourage you to go to Slack and try to drum up some business for your research ideas there. But we're also working, as I said, to connect the interests in pedagogies, research, and digital ethics with that unconference format. So more on that. If you have an idea for any of these things, please contact us at connect@able.org, and we would love to have your input and have you join one of these working teams. We also had a session on digital online presence, and I'll turn it over to Candace and Helen to share their thoughts on this one.
We had super lively discussions with the participants that came to talk about their own portfolios. They graciously shared what they had done, and we were able to discuss what they were doing. I think what was most interesting is that we came up with several insights. One of them was that we really had great discussions about what the purpose of the ePortfolio was, and who the intended audience was for the ePortfolio. I think for professional portfolios, sometimes it happens that we try to have our portfolios be everything and put everything into it. And our discussion, I think, really helped all of us come up with the idea that we really need to think about what the purpose of our ePortfolio is. And it's perfectly okay to have more than one portfolio. We learned, oh yes, Kevin Kelly says kitchensinkfolios.com. Is that a real website, Kevin? I want to go to that. That would be really funny. We also shared our portfolios with each other and gave a guided tour of the portfolio. And that was very, very valuable, to get ideas about what other people had done, but also just to learn about our colleagues more. We also had a discussion about how the ePortfolio fit into the individual's digital ecosystem. Helen was busily searching on Google to see where their ePortfolio was and what else was there, including their LinkedIn and their Facebook. That's an important consideration for us and for our students. Helen and I were very much convinced that we wanted to continue a practice of out of practice, which was started many, many years ago, where we are professionals in ePortfolio pedagogy and support of doing our own portfolios. So if you are interested in doing that, please join the Out of Practice on Slack, and we will gather all of you together and figure out how to support you and actually support each other through this process. Thanks.
So right before this session, we had the student panel, which was amazing, hearing from 4 different students from Australia, Ireland, and the United States. But that was not the only activity that we had at ABLE involving students. Prior to the conference, we had interviews with 6 students, also from the aforementioned countries, who gave us insight into their portfolio practice. And we wanted to make it an asynchronous opportunity for them because, of course, knowing that everybody lives in different time zones and not everybody might have been able to attend our in-person panel, we wanted to give those students the opportunity to share their thoughts already. Candice ran a doctoral student e-portfolio session, as conversation session with students from Portland State University, and then we had the student panel. One of the things that we haven't mentioned here on this slide is that all the lovely green icons that you've seen throughout these slides were created by a student. They were created by Iman Sami Khan, who is a bachelor student in accounting and finance, of all things, at Dublin City University. And besides being a student, being totally graphically fantastic and having a very creative streak, she is also an intern in Lisa Donaldson's team, supporting students on their ePortfolio platform, Loop Reflect. And so just very briefly to the takeaways, at least from my side for the student involvement part at the conference, is that the students have really, really strong voices. And I think everybody who's been attending the student panel earlier can attest to that. They have been answering questions wonderfully, and also the insight that they gained from the portfolios and why they are creating portfolios or continuing portfolios are wonderful. And it's also the storytelling that I find that is very important and that we should engage more. And Nora and her team also talked about storytelling in their context early in the conference, and having those voices heard makes, I think, a big difference. And also gives us the possibility to think differently of how we can give everybody a voice, especially looking at the topics of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and decolonization, because there are many, many ways of expressing ourselves in our e-portfolio, and therefore those should be respected and also valued.
Thanks, Christina. And we should also mention that we had one student, Hannah Pugh Mason, who was the only student who submitted a proposal to the ABLE conference. And she shared her perspective about incorporating ePortfolios into the humanities context, specifically in the history of philosophy. And we really encourage more students. So please share the word with your colleagues that we want to just have your sessions at the conference, panel or not. And your voices are really invaluable. I'm not a student anymore. I don't remember what it was like to be a student. And I suspect it maybe has changed a little since I was a student. So, to hear your voices is just invaluable. So thank you so, so much for all of your contributions. We really appreciate it. Now on to the Shark Tank. I will turn it over to Helen.
Great. So this is the moment that you've all been waiting for. I know that you guys are on the edges of your seats, waiting to hear the results and who are the winners of our Shark Tank. So first of all, I would like to just announce that we did survive our ABLE Shark Tank. This was, the sequel, number 2 today. And just want to also give some thanks to our sharks, Randy Gilbert from IUPUI, David Huber from Salt Lake Community College, and John Idelson from Cal State Monterey Bay. But especially, we want to give some kudos to our JAWSOME MC, and of course, the pun master, not limited to just sharks or oceans, Kevin Kelly from San Francisco State University. We're especially proud of all our presenters, Lisa, Nora, Debbie, Emily Jo, Christopher, Jason, the folks who were the intrepid souls who took a dive into the watery depths to kind of find out what this was all about. This is the first time that they tried this out, and so we're especially grateful. And I would like to announce now our winners. So first of all, I'm pleased to say, after consulting with our sharks, that all 5 participants will actually receive a gift certificate for a book of your choice from Stylus. This is a $30 value. You'll have a choice of a wide range of books, including books written by some of our own able authors, including Kevin Kelly, Candace Reynolds, and of course, many ePortfolio options and ePortfolio topics if you have not yet had the chance to possibly explore. The Sharks did feel that there were two presenters whose pitches were particularly compelling. And so congratulations to Nora and Debbie for being our grand prize winners. You've won a free registration to the ABLE conference next year. So congratulations to you all. I do want to remind you, of course, that the feedback and exchange with the Sharks, as well as with the community, those who posted comments in the chat, is of course priceless. And for those of you thinking, well, maybe this is something that I want to participate in next year, just a little hint, we're kind of exploring. We might have exhausted all of our shark puns, although with Kevin Kelly, one never knows. Who knows what he comes up with. So we're contemplating maybe adding pirates to the mix. So you can think about that, think about additional pirate puns for potentially next year. We may actually ask you to pitch speaking like a pirate. So anyways, those are all ideas and everything, but certainly for everyone, hope you'll join us next year in participating in the ABLE Shark Tank. Back to you, Tracy.
I love it, Helen. I can't wait. My Canadian R coming out in full force there. And as I said, because I live most of the time in Grenada, there is no shortage of sunken ships and great pirate fodder. So I'll on the lookout for next year. Hopefully no sharks though. So what are the next steps for ABLE? What are some things that you can look forward to moving forward? Well, as we mentioned, we do have the Slack channel that will continue to be ongoing. And we also have some other things coming up in the near future. So the proposals for the AAC&U annual meeting, and particularly the forum on open educational resources and ePortfolios is currently there, and deadline is next week. So I hope you can rejuvenate and restore and then get on those submissions for the conference in January. We do have our ABLE Digital Ethics and ePortfolios Task Force getting ready to launch year 3. And so if you're interested in applying to join that task force, it's a very simple application, and those applications are due on September 1st. And then finally, we currently have year 1 of the first AAC&U Institute on ePortfolios that ABLE and NASPA collaborate with. That group is sort of halfway through and on the home stretch to finish out strong by the end of December. And we'll have applications open, and they're open now, and you can submit an application to September 17th. And so we hope that you'll join cohort 2 of the Institute on ePortfolios, as we are having lots of fun working with the various teams this year. And of course, next year, we are going to be in some form or another at Salt Lake Community College for our ABLE annual meeting 2022. We can't wait for it. And we really hope that you'll look ahead and try to plan to join us in Salt Lake. We'll hopefully have our conference theme announced sometime in the fall, if not by the forum. And we would love to see you all again in Salt Lake. And again, we hope that we see you at some of our events that will happen throughout the year. Because you're part of our community, you will get our communications. And so watch for those. And again, if there's something that you're really wishing for, please don't hesitate to reach out either directly to myself or to connect@able.org. We can't wait to hear your ideas. And we really are here to help you be successful with your ePortfolio work. So thank you so much for all of your efforts and for all of the great contributions that you've made over the course of the week. We really can't have an ABLE without this community. So we're really privileged to get to work with you. Thanks so much for being at ABLE.